is Swift Runner. Now this story must be one of, if not the most famous cases of Wendigo psychosis ever reported. Plains Cree trapper Swift Runner was a First Nations man from Alberta, and in the winter of 1878, Swift's family was starving. His oldest son ended up dying shortly after from starvation, and shortly after that, out of nowhere, Swift killed and ate his wife and 5 children. Now Swift was not a cannibal. He only lived 25 miles away from Hudson's Bay emergency food supplies, so if he was truly that hungry, he would have just done the trek and gotten food. It was later revealed that he was suffering from Wendigo psychosis, and he was executed after his confession, in which he said he was possessed by a Wendigo spirit during his killing spree. Imagine being so scared of becoming this cannibalistic monster that your paranoia and fear are the very things that turn you into it. Coming in at number 9 are the frogs. This one was shared by Reddit user Unathana, who said growing up he spent his summers with his grandma out in the country. Her house was situated near a pond that housed more than a couple of frogs, and let's just say they were loud as hell. The user used to complain about all the noise when he was trying to sleep, so his grandma decided to tell him this story. Long before the grandma owned the house, it belonged to a very old couple. The man hated the frogs croaking all the time and wanted to get rid of them, but his wife told him they kept the Wendigo away. Brushing her off completely, he decided to go around the pond and catch all the frogs, and obviously it took some time, but he eventually did catch them all. That night, without the singing frogs, the man and his wife were brutally slaughtered and eaten by the Wendigo. Despite the user thinking it was just an old ghost story, he had never been more scared in his life than when he heard the frogs stop croaking himself. At number 8, we have Jack Fiddler. Back in 1907, OG Cree chief and medicine man Jack Fiddler was infamous for defeating Wendigos, and he was apparently really bloody good at it. Jack and his brother went after people who either had Wendigo psychosis or had transformed completely into Wendigos. The duo killed up to 14 people, and because Jack was known to have these great powers capable of stopping the spirit of Wendigos, that's how he got away with killing as many people as he did. However, in 1907, they were arrested for murder and homicide for the people they were trying to save. Jack ended up committing suicide prior to his sentence, and his brother Joseph died in prison days before finding out he was actually pardoned and was set free. You could have had it all, Joseph. You could have had it all. Could have had it all. Like number 7 slot is Pet Cemetery. Our Lord and Savior Stephen King has blessed us with some of the scariest stuff I've ever seen or read. His book Pet Cemetery actually has a Wendigo as the thing responsible for resurrecting all the animals and humans that were interred in the Micmac Cemetery. The family just stopped using the land because they think it's gone bad or sour, but really it's the Wendigo who's behind everything. It starts infecting the minds of the characters, and they start having visions of each other and wanting to kill each other, and some of them actually end up going through with it. The reanimated creatures are horribly changed. They're essentially just vessels for the Wendigos to put their spirits into and just to kill. I know this one is very fictional, but King did a lot of research into the mythical creature before writing the book, so a lot of the scary elements are factual, and that is scary as hell, even more so if you've seen the movie. Ugh, that was bad. In a good way, bad in a good way. Now, number 6 is the Texan Wendigo Part 1. Shared by Sehan Ricky from Yorktown, Texas, he said this took place on the 12th of January last year. The boy was bored as hell and had walked around his entire town that night and decided to finally go home. The route to get home had a large wooded area near it, and despite no one in town really exploring it, the boy thought it'd be a great idea to go through it that night. As he's coming up to the edge of the woods, he sees this massive 8 to 10 foot very pale figure walking away from the woods and going towards one of the houses. He decides at this point to avoid that situation altogether and goes straight into the woods, but he was just overwhelmed with this feeling of dread and this feeling of being watched. Can you imagine how scared this guy probably was? It's like 1 a.m. He's in the woods. He just saw this enormous figure. I don't even know why he went into the woods to begin with, the idiot. That's like when someone in a horror movie makes a decision that you know is gonna kill them, and you're just like, come on, why? You know better. You were raised better than that. Coming in at number 5 is the Texan Wendigo Part 2, and yes, it does not end there. Either way, the feeling of being watched gets worse and worse, and now he's at the point where he's looking behind him every 3 seconds, checking to make sure it's not there. Now, the 5th time he does this, he sees it. This time, the Wendigo is on all fours, still standing at about 5 feet tall. It had the whitest skin, almost like it had been bleached. The face was human-looking, the eyes were deep pits of black, and its arms were Slender Man level long. Like, this is precisely the sight you never want to see in daylight, let alone when you're walking alone in the woods at night. The Wendigo started swaying back and forth like it was debating how it was going to pounce on the boy. He wasted no time running the hell out of those woods and eventually getting home, making sure he did not look back even once. God knows what he would have seen. I would have shot myself just thinking about the situation. I would have shot myself before I even entered the woods. I would not enter the woods. At No. 4 are the Wendigo Woods Part 1. This was from traveling storyteller who shared that one summer her parents bought a new vacation home and they went to live in it for a few months. The log house was near the coast of the Atlantic Ocean and right on the US-Canadian border. Either way, when they arrived, the girl called out to her dad who was inside and asked if he could help her bring her suitcase in, and he obviously said yes. I love when dads are there just to do stuff like that. Go you dads. Either way, the dad came out the front door and all of a sudden he froze. He was looking at something behind the user and his eyes looked paralyzed with fear as his skin got paler and paler. And mind you, her dad was not a small guy by any means. He was huge himself, but somehow scared of whatever he was looking at. Within seconds, he snapped out of it and brought the suitcase inside like nothing had even happened. At dinner, the girl asked her dad what he was looking at earlier, and both parents looked like she just asked the most ridiculous question ever. Then all of a sudden, some form hit the window, shattering it, and when she looked towards the window, she saw this horrific, tall, human-like figure running away. Dun dun dun. Filling in the pre-slot are the Wendigo Woods Part 2. I mean, after all that went down, there was 100% definitely going to be an elephant in the rooms, and so now the user was like, what the hell was that? Because her parents didn't even look phased, they didn't even bat an eye, their blood pressure did not even raise. Mine is raised just telling the story. Now eventually the parents broke and asked her if she'd ever heard of the legend of the Wendigo. They explained it to her, telling her that the location of their log house was the epicenter of all Wendigo sightings that had ever happened. The couple believed that the area was the center of the lore and they wanted to capture one if possible and examine and study it. The girl did not sleep a wink for the next 2 months and surprisingly encountered numerous Wendigo sightings. What I don't get is why the Wendigos didn't just possess or kill or eat this family. Why are they just letting them be? Now at number 2 is the thumb. This one was shared by the user Kodas Gaming, who lives in Killeen, Texas. Now the user was about 11 or 12 at the time of the story, and he was walking home from his friend's house around sunset. For some reason that night the streets were a lot emptier than usual. It was quiet and there was no one around. After passing 5 houses, the boy suddenly felt the shiver go down his spine. Something was watching him and he could feel it, and as soon as he turned around, his worst fears were confirmed. The thing was as grey as molten clay and about 7 to 8 feet tall. Its arms were extremely skinny and long like twigs, and his eyes and mouth were deep black sockets. It also had some kind of black rag around its neck which had no purpose whatsoever, just made it even creepier. Now as soon as the guy saw the Wendigo, he ran home and he could fully hear the thumps of the creature following him. Now as soon as the boy finally got inside, slammed the door and locked it, he said he felt a thump along the door and it felt like a dead corpse just falling against the door. He then rushed to the window to see if it was still there, and all he saw was the Wendigo vanish into thin air. Remind me never to go to Texas, because that's not happening. And finally, at number 1 is Through the Binoculars. This one was shared by Artestesia from Wyoming. Back in September of 2016, she drove up to the Bighorn Mountains in Buffalo, and obviously she packed accordingly. She went up there about 4 times a week, so this wasn't a big deal by any means, and she wasn't scared, because why would she be? It's just a routine trip. That day, however, she went to a different location in the mountains called Hettinger, as opposed to the place she usually camped at. As she was taking in the view and looking over a hill, she saw an extremely tall figure emerging from the snow. I love how it's just like her handy-dandy binoculars, and looked out of it to see the humanoid pale-looking monster staring back at her through the lens. She looked away from the binoculars to see the monster coming right for her with its dagger-like nails, long limbs, and extremely deep-set mouth eyes. She decided to hide in whatever hole she could find, even covering her mouth so the Wendigo couldn't hear her breathe. I mean, he couldn't hear you, he could probably sense your heartbeat. They probably have those kind of powers. Either way, she then closed her eyes because she couldn't even bear to look, and when she finally opened them again, she saw the Wendigo looking right through the hole, knowing something was there, but not knowing what. 10 is The Thing. This one comes from Reddit user Tio2025, who's part of the Algonquin tribe from his dad's side. The user and his friends went on a camping trip to New Jersey and camped near a super old cabin in the woods. They were doing typical camping stuff like listening to music, smoking, playing games, etc. And by 1 a.m. everyone was getting ready to go to bed. 2 hours later, the user woke up because of noises coming from outside. He looked outside the window to see this tall figure with glowing blue eyes just staring right at him. Now obviously at this point anyone would their pants, and so did the user. He quickly woke up his Native American friend Jack, who knew straight away that it was a Wendigo. He told everyone to get down as the thing came inside and started pacing and growling. After 10 tense minutes of this, it finally opened the cabin door and disappeared back into the night. After that, the boys could not sleep a wink because all they could hear were the screams of smaller animals coming from the woods. In the morning, they found a giant deer carcass outside the cabin, which meant they were this close to having the same fate as that deer the night before. Coming in at number 9 is Kira. Now this one was shared by Redditor Bedhead126, whose real name is Kira, and this story happened while she was on a trip to Austin. Late one night, her and her family were seeing some friends when Kira decided to walk past her backyard and into the forests behind it. Now everyone had gone inside to eat at this point, so she was there alone, and she just sat in the woods alone just thinking, because Kira likes that shit. Whatever, I'm not gonna judge you, Kira, but being in the woods alone is usually how people die, mate. Have you never seen a horror movie? Have you never seen a top 10 video? Either way, after a while, the noises of the woods went silent and something seemed off. She had a log break behind her and she still wasn't really scared. Then she had a screaming in the distance and it sounded like her little sister, but it just couldn't have been since she was inside the house. Finally, she was like, maybe it's not safe and I should go back home. So she started walking back while continuously looking over her shoulder. And then she saw it. This massive, deformed, deer-looking creature a mere 5 feet away from her, just drooling. She started running at the speed of light, and the noises that came out from the creature's mouth were just indescribable. She said they were horrifying, inhuman, and Kira claimed she felt them in her bones. She continued to hear the noises all throughout the night, even when she was back home. At number 8, we have The Hunt. So this one was shared by Reddit user Lick Taint, and it takes place when he was 16 years old and on a fishing trip with 4 friends in Hamlin, New York. Now, the fishing area was 1.5 miles away from the nearest house, and the day was going pretty well. Everyone was having a good time, just chilling and smoking, and then it hits 9:30 p.m. To preface this, one of the friends, Brian, is part of the Navajo tribe, so he's our knowledgeable one in this scenario. Either way, out of nowhere, the friends start hearing dogs barking in the distance, almost like a pack of coyotes. Freaked out, the boys decide to walk home while semi-drunk. Don't know how that seemed like a good idea, but alright lads. Either way, a quarter of the way back, Brian stops walking and just becomes white with fear. The user asked him what was wrong, and Brian grabbed him by the wrist and turned him towards the field. In it, they saw these menacing pair of eyes the size of footballs looking back at them. The two decided to keep it quiet so the others wouldn't freak out, but halfway home, the pack of dogs seemed to be following them, and something in the cornfield near them was also tailing them as the cops were going down like something was in them. They finally got back to Brian's house and got a gun, because that's America, and they sat on the porch. The boys thoroughly believed that they were being hunted by Wendigo, and that's why they grabbed the gun. But I mean, this is America, so I mean, people just grab guns for no reason, right? Following on number 7 spot is the camera footage. Back in November of 2013, YouTube channel Shimmy Jim Hog uploaded a video titled The Most Disturbing Video You Will Ever See. It starts off with some text about how at around 1:30 a.m. at night, they began to hear noises on their roof, and that continued for a few days. The video then starts, and you can see the person filming his house in the dark, and as he goes outside around 1 minute into the video, the camera pans upwards towards the roof, and you see this creature. This humanoid-looking creature with shining eyes that quickly disappears when it realized it's been seen. It wasn't making any noise whatsoever, but it had a large bald head, and its eyes looked like shining beacons of death, no cap. My guesses are it was either a Wendigo or a Wendigo-possessed human, neither of which I have time for personally. Now, at number 6 are the Roseau sightings. Between the late 1800s and 1920s, locals of a small town called Roseau in Minnesota reported sightings of the Wendigo. Now, every time anyone in town saw it, someone would unexpectedly die soon after. Now, not much is known about the sightings or why they occurred, but they eventually stopped, as did the deaths, and everything just kind of went back to normal. That one was short and sweet, but honestly I couldn't find more information about it, you guys. Coming in at number 5 is You, shared by Hellfire Narrations on Reddit. The user said she went on her usual daily midnight stroll to the forest by her house. First of all, who's taking their daily midnight stroll to the forests? Nobody. Either way, as soon after she got there, the warm air around her suddenly turned cold and she felt like she was being watched. Despite turning around and yelling hello, she saw and heard nothing out of the ordinary. Feeling a bit stupid and paranoid, she brushed it off and went further into the woods. When she looked back the next time, she saw these white creepy eyes looking at her from behind some shrubbery. The creature was insanely tall and skinny. It had razor-sharp teeth and pointed shiny fingernails. She knew it was a Wendigo straight away and ran the hell away as fast as she possibly could. The user had lost the creature a while back, but she was sobbing like crazy. When she looked into the creature's eyes, this creepy voice in her head said this: "A long time ago, I was created to haunt you, to fear you and lead you into dark corners. These times are over now since you can't escape. I am you, but changed to a horrifying monster." She was the Wendigo. The Wendigo was her. She screamed at the realization, but her voice went from being shrill and human to being monstrous. At number 4 are the marks. Shared by Reddit user WubbyBubby247, one night the user and his friend decided to go biking down this dirt road that was in desperate need of major maintenance. I'm talking potholes, little fires, deep holes, and so on. When they got to the tiny fire pit, they lit it as per usual, but they had a faint noise in the background, kind of like a disaster siren. Now, the noise was getting louder and louder and sounded like it was coming towards the boys, but the direction of the sound was also the only way back home. The boys started running in the woods that lined the dirt road, and as soon as they turned the corner, they saw it. A gigantic, towering figure in the darkness just staring at them. They obviously ran the other way and finally got home, not thinking much of anything. But when the boy woke up the next morning, he was freezing and had 3 long claw marks across his chest that were bleeding. His friend had woken up with the same thing. They decided to go back to the woods here and there to investigate, I don't know why, and each time they'd hear the siren and be chased out by this tall figure that was way too fast and ugly to be human. Filling in 3 slot are the nightmares part 1. This one comes from Reddit user GameWriter420, who said she had a very weird nightmare about the Wendigo when she was a kid. And mind you, she didn't even know what a Wendigo was at that age or what they even looked like. Either way, in it, she was in the woods and she saw this giant creature with a deer skull for a head staring at her. Nothing happened, it was just a lot of staring back and forth and a lot of cold air. Now, a few years later, she had the second dream, and again she was in some foggy forest and the Wendigo was just plain staring at her. But in the third dream, the figure actually walked towards her in this forest. Its sockets were so deep and black and was breathing very weirdly and heavily. Its back was so arched that its spinal bones were sticking out, and its arms were lanky and bony with claws at the end that looked like branches. Now, she just didn't understand why she kept seeing the Wendigo when there was no connection there. After some research, she found out that sightings in your dreams could mean that the creature was possessing you. Now, she admitted she did become more violent over the course of a few years, but that was due to mental health, not because she was possessed by a cannibalistic spirit. Now, number 2 are the nightmares part 2. Now, this one has nothing to do with the nightmares mentioned in number 3, but it is about another nightmare, so I just decided to title them part 1 and 2, you know, for ease. So this one, however, was shared by Reddit user Dada Dude, who said he had a horrifying dream about a Wendigo. In it, he went back in time to see how his city looked back in the day, and it was honestly just a few houses and a massive field. I swear if I had the option to go back in time, I wouldn't be like, oh, I wonder what Dubai looked like way back when. There's historical pictures for a reason, buddy. Either way, someone warned him not to go to the woods for fear of the Wendigo, but he ignored the warning. The woods were covered in a heavy fog, which made it hard to navigate through, and the user started feeling anxious. He was about to turn back when he saw a gigantic figure right in front of him. It had antlers and was as tall as a 2-apartment house, which is no bloody joke. One minute it was there, and the next it was gone. Then he started seeing figures appear all around him, but he knew that Wendigos could make him hallucinate. Now, he woke up sweating and fearful, but he couldn't stop seeing visions of distorted images in his head of people eating a lion or a zebra. He started losing control of his own sight, kind of like he was getting possessed by the Wendigo. And that's all he wrote, so I don't even know if he got fully possessed. And finally, at number 1 is The Canyon, shared by Reddit user Srosty. This story took place on March 27th of last year. Now, the user was riding his bike in his neighborhood, and there's this huge canyon that's about 400 feet from his house, so obviously he made his way there. On his way up the hill, he got a whiff of something absolutely disgusting. Despite nearly vomiting, he finally made it to the top of the hill. When he turned around, he literally started crying straight away. In front of him was a 12 to 15 foot tall Wendigo that had a wolf's head and was missing skin around its spinal cord. The boy could see through its ribcage and its legs were literally bent backwards like something out of The Exorcist. Now the Wendigo turned to face him, and it was at that moment the boy took off, narrowly escaping with his life. He claims he still cries every time he thinks about the encounter and hasn't gone biking since. Honestly, I'd be pretty scarred as well, so I wouldn't be trying to go there either, to be honest.
And we have the Wendigo. The Wendigo is something that we like to talk about a lot on Life's Biggest Questions. The Wendigo is a lesson that cannibalism is never gonna end well. The legend of the Wendigo comes from the Algonquin people, which is actually relatively near to where I am here in Toronto. I've actually been to Algonquin National Park and I was scared of bears the first time I went, but the next time I will be aware of the Wendigo. The story of the Wendigo goes that once he was a lost hunter that during a particular harsh winter, and trust me they do get very cold here in Canada, got really hungry. He couldn't find anything to hunt, he couldn't find anything to eat. This continued for days, for months. His hunger became so intense that he turned to cannibalism. After eating human flesh, he became a crazed monster and continued to roam in search of his next fleshy meal. Now the Wendigo, who is 15 feet tall, looks a little like this. Ooh. The Wendigo is said to roam free in the icy plains of Canada and the northern states of the USA, like Minnesota, Illinois, and upstate New York. The legend has legs too, literally. There have been several spates of Wendigo sightings over the past 150 or so years, most notably when a number of people from the Algonquin went missing in the 20th century. The Wendigo was to blame. The Wendigo is said to lure you away from civilization to icier plains and will then eat you alive. Hard no from me to Mr. Wendigo. Stay away. Do you want to meet the Native American Voldemort? Coming in at number 9, we have the legend of Two-Face. This is a morality lesson and a scary urban legend at the very same time. The legend of Two-Face, often called Sharp Elbows or Hester Voto Keo, is about not giving attention to bad things. The story is most popular among the Sioux people, and incantations can be found across a lot of First Nations groups. The story goes that the Two-Face creature is a bit of an attention hog, to put it lightly. They are a nasty presence that wants you to look at them. They will do anything to get your attention, but be warned, if you give in, if you look at it, if you give it the attention it craves, it will cut you. Actually, though, it will cut you. One legend is often told about a heavily pregnant Sioux woman. She heard a voice behind her and intuition told her that she shouldn't look around. She was right. The strange voice tried even harder to get her to look, but still she did not. Later, she told her husband, and he was glad. He said that the voice had come from a malevolent creature that would appear to her 4 times. She must ignore it each and every time. If she successfully ignored it 4 times, it would leave her alone forever. Now it did appear twice more, and twice she successfully ignored it, but on the 4th time, things didn't go well. The 4th time came and she decided to have a peek at the creature. Curiosity got the better of her and she peered through a crack when she thought it was turned away. But what did she see? A ghoulish being with 2 faces and razor-sharp elbows. Its other face turned to look at her directly. It lurched out and cut her to shreds. Lesson being, never give in to negative voices no matter how hard they shout. They will destroy you. Coming in at number 8, we have skinwalkers. In Navajo culture, the legend of skinwalkers is enduring. In fact, the legend is so widely perpetuated that a lot of people outside of the Native American cultures are very scared of them too. Skinwalkers are said to be witches who ascend to their superhuman powers by sacrificing/murdering a close family member. Honestly, how awful. These skinwalkers can then take the form of an animal of their choosing, but they most commonly appear as wolves, owls, coyotes, foxes, and even crows. These witches are said to be extremely dangerous, and you do not want to encounter one for fear of invoking their wrath. What will their wrath do? Straight up murder, once again. These skinwalkers are said to be most commonly found stalking deserts in California, like Death Valley, the Mojave National Reserve, and Joshua Tree, so watch out. From skinwalkers to Skinwalker Ranch, up next at number 7. Some weird things have been happening at the so-called Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. Native Americans in the area truly believe that the area is plagued and cursed by evil spirits, and well, they might actually be right. The ranch became notorious in the media when the Sherman family spoke out about their experience living there in the 1990s. Their stories involved strange lights, ghostly apparitions, and the tale of an invincible wolf that I found particularly interesting. It seems that the Sherman family came across what seemed like a friendly wolf. So friendly, it approached them from time to time. Sadly though, the wolf could not be trusted. It killed a number of their cattle, which are expensive to come by. Now this prompted the head of the Sherman family to shoot it with a .375 Magnum. Nothing. It was struck again. Nothing. The wolf was shot several times more, but it simply walked away. Was this an encounter with a real-life skinwalker? Maybe. Coming in at number 6, we have stick people. Beware the stick people. While they may seem like cheeky pests, they're actually pretty malicious when threatened. The stick people are a legend from the Salish who live in British Columbia. They believe that in the woods there are a tribe of mystical people, stick people. They're a lot like other native tribes, but they're very elusive and they have mystical powers. They communicate by using bird and animal sounds. In the woods, it is said that they will disorientate wanderers with mind control powers. Tricksters, sure. The stick people are said to enter villages at night and mess with tribes, stealing their nets, eating their food, or simply just pulling down men's clothing. Classic. However, you never want to encounter a stick person face to face. This is why young First Nations children are warned never to enter forests alone. If you come across a stick person, they will feel very threatened, and the next time they enter a settlement, they will do more than steal food. They will actually steal children. They'll take the children as punishment and raise them as slaves. Coming into number 5, we have ghost sickness. In Native American culture, it is possible for a person to fall ill with something called ghost sickness. Navajo legend has it that ghost sickness can strike if a deceased person is not buried with the right rituals. If that is the case, the spirit of the deceased can become disruptive and make a living person ill. With ghost sickness, the sufferer will start having terrible dreams about the person who's died. They will become obsessed with their death. They will feel depressed and also physically weak. They may also start to hear voices. According to legend, the only way to recover from ghost sickness is to undergo a ritual performed by a religious leader, and often make adjustments to the burial of the dead to satisfy them. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the cause of ghost sickness. Up next at number 4, we have the chindi. So the chindi is said to be bad energy left over from a person who has died. The chindi is produced when a person takes their last breath. Actually, a lot of First Nations people believe that it is much better for people to die out in the open, as it leaves more space for the chindi to disperse. Dying inside a house practically dooms that building to being haunted forever. The Navajo are so wary of invoking chindi that will actually get rid of a deceased person's possessions. Even saying a deceased person's name is a certain way to summon their bad energy. Just don't do it. Coming into number 3, we have the legend of the dust devils. Navajo people are watchful and wary of dust. Why? Well, because they're actually spirits interacting with the land in the form of a little whirlwind. Whether it's benevolent or malevolent depends on the direction the dust or dirt is spinning. In Navajo folklore, if you see dust spinning in a clockwise direction, everything's fine. But if it spins counterclockwise, well, you better have your wits about you, as you are in the presence of an evil entity. Giant disembodied heads, anyone? Sure. Coming in at number 2, we have the legends of the flying head. The flying head legend is most popular in Iroquois and Wyandot culture. Flying heads are thought to be produced from cannibals or from battles wherein people have physically lost their heads. Flying heads are giant, ravenous beings with neck-length hair. Do you want to see a depiction? I'm kind of here for them. I can imagine myself as like a giant ravenous head sometimes. Some descriptions even have them with bat wings, and they're said to have an insatiable hunger, so insatiable that they're often led to eat people. Nonetheless, no man-made weapon can kill them. The only way to be rid of them is to trick them into eating hot coals. Easier said than done, I think. Finally, coming into number 1, we have the owls. I really like this tale of how owls were created, and it's pretty scary and may make you feel not so great about our murderous feathery friends. As told by the Yakama, the story goes that there was once 5 sisters who lived in a cave. These sisters were no normal humans. In fact, they would eat vile things like frogs, lizards, snakes, and mice, things that other First Nations people simply wouldn't eat. Some even said that they would eat tribes people if they took a disliking to them. Were these 5 sisters the native equivalent of witches? Quite possibly. They seem to be in touch with a lot of bad energy and cause a lot of people a lot of problems. Luckily for the other tribes though, one by one the women died. Finally, everybody breathed a sigh of relief as the final sister drowned. You would think that would have been the end of it, but no. From one of her eyes, it is said that all owls were created. Sure, because owls. Now when you see owls, apparently they are a small part of the evil 5th sister, part of her soul that's always watching and waiting. But for what? Owls. Who knew?
Today with the werewolf of Defiance. It's the summer of 1972. 2 railroad workers were hard at work on the Norfolk and Western Railway when all of a sudden, one of them, Ted Davis, looked up to see a large wolf-like creature with a wooden board grasped between its paws, which it then whacked the man in the shoulder with before turning off into the bushes to run away like a coward. 5 days later, Ted and his coworker Tom Jones returned to the railway for another day's work, hoping they wouldn't be seeing the big furry monster again. Only they did. Only this time it was a bit of a safe distance away. Not that I'd ever feel a safe distance away from a werewolf, but that's just me. And then they reported the sightings to the police. Right around this time, more and more Wolfman sightings began piling in, and locals began to panic about the potential of being mauled by a 6-foot-tall werewolf. Imagine actually feeling that was a possibility. Like you're heading out of the grocery store and you're like, damn, really hope I don't run into a lycanthrope today. That's their life apparently in Ohio. Up next we have the Loveland Frog. This mysterious creature has been reported to have been sighted in Loveland, Ohio. The amphibious creature is said to resemble a bipedal frog, standing upright on its hind legs, measuring up to 4 feet tall. Not that big, but pretty big for a frog though. Got leathery skin, webbed fingers and toes, y'all know how frogs look, and it's also got those iconic glowing large eyes. The first reported sighting of the Loveland frog was in 1955, when a man claimed to have seen 3 of them on the side of the road holding some kind of strange wand-like device. Again, only in Ohio would you spot 3 large frogs practicing magic under a bridge. I really gotta visit Ohio sometimes. It just seems like such a fantastical place. Again, Narnia got nothing on Ohio. Anyway, since that initial 1955 sighting, there have been several other ones, including one by a police officer in 1972 who reported seeing a creature fitting the description of the Loveland frog scuttling across the road and then hopping over the guardrail into the Little Miami River. Another officer even claimed to have shot at the creature, but it escaped. Some people believe the Loveland frog is an escaped exotic pet or mutated frog, while others speculate that it is a supernatural type of creature. At number 8 on the list, we have melonheads. The melonheads are a group of cryptids that have been reported to have been sighted in various locations in Ohio, but are primarily found in the Cleveland suburb of Kirtland. These creatures are said to be small in stature, with large, bulbous heads and distorted facial features. According to legend, they were the result of an experiment gone wrong in which scientists conducted unethical experiments on orphans, resulting in the creation of these strange bobble-headed beings. Some variations of the story also claim that the melonheads are the descendants of a family who suffered from a rare genetic disorder, maybe, that caused their heads to grow abnormally large. Some even say they could be of extraterrestrial origin, which whatever they are though, I want to see one. I'm telling you, I'm coming to Ohio to go on a full cryptid scavenger hunt, and I'd better see me a weird deformed melonhead. At number 7, it's Bessie. The Bessie Lake Monster, or the Lake Erie Monster. It's a legendary creature that is said to inhabit Lake Erie. The creature is described as a big, similar in appearance to Loch Ness Monster, kinda long-necked, humpback, as well as a serpentine, kind of dinosaur-like body. The first reported sighting of Bessie dates back to 1973, when a duck hunter saw a large serpentine-like creature thrashing in the lake and startled by his gunshots. And since then, numerous sightings have been reported over the years. Some eyewitnesses claim to have seen the creature swimming close to their boats or even on the shore, while others have reported hearing strange, eerie sounds coming from the water. Despite many attempts to capture or study the creature, there is no concrete evidence of its existence. However, the legend of Bessie persists, and many people believe that there is something mysterious lurking beneath the surface of Lake Erie. When it comes to creatures that reside in the water, I gotta say, seems plausible. We don't spend a lot of time underwater, Lots could be lurking in those murky depths. You never know. Number 6, Mothman of Gallia County. Most of us have probably heard of the infamous Mothman. Large, winged, glowing red eyes. It was first reported in West Virginia in 1966, but one of the most famous sightings of this large flying insect was over the Silver Bridge that connected Point Pleasant, West Virginia to the village of Gallipolis, Ohio. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think it's Gallipolis. This sighting happened just a year after the first reported Mothman sighting, and right around the time when the creature was spotted on the Silver Bridge, it collapsed. And some still believe that this mysterious cryptid was the one responsible. There have also been reported Mothman sightings before other big disasters, which has led some to speculate as to whether Mothman is a bad omen or if it is simply appears as kind of like a warning of impending doom, bad or good. Orange eyes. Now, this is a Sasquatch type creature that could very well be the same type of creature as a couple others we'll be discussing on the list. There are many Sasquatch variations seen throughout Ohio, but this one is famous for, as you could probably imagine, it's got these glowing orange eyes. There have been reports of strange creatures with orange eyes lurking in Ohio, said to reside in the Riverside Cemetery before moving to the woods by Mill Lake. Witnesses described the creature as resembling a large bipedal humanoid with a muscular build and a hunched posture. Its eyes, once again, seem to emit an otherworldly glow. The creature is reportedly very fast and agile and has been known to vanish into thin air when pursued. Some locals believe that Orange Eyes is a Bigfoot type creature, but there are also those theories that maybe a kind of supernatural being or extraterrestrial entity as well. At number 4, we have Dogman. Most Dogman reports come out of Michigan, but there have been sightings in Ohio as well. According to witnesses, the Dogman is a bipedal, wolf-like creature that stands between 6 and 7 feet tall with a muscular build and a snarling dog-like face. The first reported sightings of the Dogman in Ohio occurred in the late 1980s. Since then, there have been numerous other sightings reported in the state. Witnesses have reported seeing the creature hunting in the woods, stalking prey, even running across highways at high speeds. Some skeptics believe that the sightings, of course, may be misidentifications of known animals like bears or wolves, while others believe that the Dogman is a real undiscovered species that is yet to be officially documented by science. Number 3, the Crosswick Monster. Now, there's only one report of this cryptid, but it's quite the entertaining tale. It's like something out of a classic 1950s monster movie or something like that, and it's a pretty famous piece of Ohio cryptid folklore. The story goes that in 1882, two boys, Ed and Joe Lynch, began hearing strange sounds coming from the tall grass of a bush behind them. They were fishing, and then before they had time to think, a large four-legged lizard creature popped out from the bushes and began making its way toward them. The boys tried to make their escape, but it caught the 13-year-old Ed in its mouth and began dragging him towards a large hollowed-out tree. 3 men had heard the boys screaming and managed to make it to Ed's aid before he was pulled into the tree, although he was badly injured. A group of about 60 men were formed, armed with axes and clubs, and they tried to slay the beast, but the creature managed to escape, actually standing on its hind legs at one point. It's pretty horrifying. The group chased the creature, which retreated into a hole under a large hill of rocks. The creature was never seen again. Described as black and white in color and roughly 12 feet in length. Number 2, the Minerva Monster. This has to be one of the most famous Sasquatch sightings in Ohio. In August of 1978, in the village of Minerva, the first sighting of the creature was reported by the Caton family, who'd seen a large hairy creature in the gravel pit outside of their property, looking to be about 300 pounds. Soon became known as the Minerva Monster and terrorized the Caton family on more than one occasion. They described seeing it peering through their kitchen window one night. Awful. And when police came to investigate, they saw large footprints around their home with a terrible smell lingering in the air. The creature was also reported to have thrown rocks at their home one day, and they even reported seeing 2 large hairy bipeds on a hill by the strip mine near their property. The family has been adamant about what they saw ever since, and their story has remained consistent. It wasn't just the Catons who had run-ins with the large ape-like creature though. Other locals began reporting seeing a similar creature in and around the Minerva area around the same time. And that's going to bring us to our number 1 spot, the Ohio Grassman. There's a very good chance that the Minerva monster and Orange Eyes are the very same creature I'm describing here, as they're all big, all furry, ape-like creatures. Grassman is pretty much Ohio's nickname for Bigfoot, described as a large, hairy, bipedal creature standing between 7 and 9 feet tall. Grassman is said to have human-like face and a muscular build. Witnesses have reported hearing eerie vocalizations and howls coming from the woods, as well as seeing large footprints that they believe belong to the creature. The first reported sightings of the Ohio Grassman occurred in the late 1800s, but the creature gained widespread attention in the 1970s when multiple sightings were reported in the state. Since then, there have been numerous other sightings reported in the area, while some skeptics dismiss the sightings, of course, as misidentifications of, animals or even hoaxes. Others believe that the Grassman is real and he's an undiscovered species. So I don't know, what do you think? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments.
At our 10th spot, we have the phantom kangaroo. Okay, I know it doesn't sound too scary, like a cute little kangaroo. How could it be scary? Well, this one definitely is. So people have described this kangaroo as being 3.5 to 5.5 feet tall, with glowing eyes and supernatural powers. It is said that it can vanish into thin air and can brutally murder local animals. Now, people have claimed to see this phantom kangaroo all throughout Minnesota, but the most recorded sightings were in Coon Rapids. People have said that they have seen this creature rummaging through their trash or even killing pets. People who have seen it have called it a big bunny, but then they would get scared when it disappeared right in front of their eyes. Coming in at number 9, we have the Dogman. This is another creature that has been reported in different regions of Minnesota. So in 2009, a man encountered this cryptid. He was driving along a country road when he spotted some deer. He pulled over and was watching the deer when he spotted what he referred to as a Dogman. He said that this creature was 7 feet tall, 2-legged, and had big, long hands with opposable thumbs. He also said that this creature had a long snout with broad shoulders and muscular thighs. He was covered in dark brown fur. So maybe werewolves are real and this is a version of one. What do you think? Now, thankfully, this creature did not attack this man. They made eye contact, and as soon as they did, the man drove away. Smart thinking. In our 8th spot, we have Peppy the lake monster. Now, this lake monster is thought to be similar to Nessie the Loch Ness monster. In fact, maybe they're related, who knows? Well, Peppy is a massive snake-like creature with a long neck who lives in Lake Pepin. There have been various sightings throughout the 18th and 1900s. People who have seen it have said that it looks like something between the size of an elephant and a rhino and has smooth gray skin. They also said that it can snatch a flying bird right out of the air. Now, Peppy has been considered harmless as there have been no reports of it causing any harm to citizens. In fact, some individuals have gone diving in hopes to see this creature. There is currently a $50,000 reward for anyone who can prove that Peppy is indeed real. So time to put those Photoshop skills to the test. Or maybe it is real and just he's gone into hiding or something. Moving on, at number 7 we have the hairy man of Virga's Trail. Maybe you should think twice before going on a nice little hike in Minnesota. So apparently there have been sightings of a giant hairy man type creature lurking this trail. This creature is supposed to be 8 feet tall with a musty odor. Honestly, I don't know who got close enough to smell this creature. I feel like if it approached me, smelling it would be the last thing on my mind. This creature is also supposed to be very aggressive. A man by the name of Kan Zitzao apparently encountered this creature while driving in the woods. He claimed that this creature jumped on his car and started smashing the hood. Apparently, there are also reports of brutal animal attackings from this creature. So what do you think? You down to come hiking with me? In our 6th spot, we have the Nopeming Sanitarium. Seriously, the name of this place literally has nope in it. If that's not a hint to not go there, then I don't know what is. Now, when people hear the word sanitarium, they often associate it with an insane asylum. However, this was not the case. The Nopemic Sanitarium was a home for the ill and elderly. In 1912, it was home to thousands of patients with tuberculosis. Many of them died, and as a result, people claim that their spirits still roam the halls. Apparently, if you go there, then you can hear some of the spirits of people moaning in pain. Now, this legend also states that there is a 9-year-old girl that lurks around the sanitarium. People don't know who this girl is, but there have been reports of people hearing her giggle, or even of her appearing in photographs that they have taken of the empty hallways. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with Bertha Maynard. Now, legend states that Bertha was accused of being a witch in the late 1800s. It is now said that she haunts her gravesite. People have reported seeing her apparition near her grave, or even hearing her whispers and cries. They even claim that her grave would move around, or that her headstone would just disappear. Now, one individual reported his encounter with the ghost. He said that he was just chilling in his car with his lady friend by the grave. He states that out of nowhere, his radio went all staticky and the car's antenna started moving rapidly, despite there being no wind. He believes that Bertha was trying to communicate with him. The legend also describes an event involving some teen kids and Bertha's grave. Apparently, these kids vandalized her headstone, and shortly after, one of the kids' parents passed away unexpectedly. They believed that this was Bertha's revenge. Coming in at number 4, we had the ghost clown. Now, what's scarier than a clown? A ghost clown. So apparently this ghost clown can be seen along the trail of Lake Almagne. There you go, another reason why we just shouldn't go hiking. Legend has it that this clown just stands and stares at you as you walk the trail. Legend has it that he doesn't want you walking this trail, so he will stalk and stare at you until you leave. They also claim to have seen this clown's apparition appear and then disappear randomly, or have even seen weird shadowy figures darting in and out of the trees. But my question is, who is this ghost clown man? What happened in the forest, and why is the ghost dressed like a clown? Or maybe Pennywise has found a new hiding spot. Who knows? In our 3rd spot, we have Duluth's East Little Theater. This next urban legend is quite an interesting one. Now, apparently a drama director died in this theater after falling off the balcony. Before his death, he was in the midst of writing a play. However, because of this accident, he was never able to finish it. Now, legend has it that one day his script mysteriously appeared on an English teacher's desk. Attached to the script was a note written on an old stationery that read, "Please perform this." And then it was signed by him with the initials RC. Now, they never did end up performing this piece, for obvious reasons. I mean, that must have been terrifying. But drama students say that they hear weird noises in the theater and sometimes feel a cold presence. Coming in at number 2, we have the Wendigo. Now, apparently the Wendigo has been seen in forests of colder regions like Minnesota and Canada. Dang it, why does it have to be in Canada too? So, the Wendigo is a giant creature that can be up to 15 feet tall. They are skinny and often have antlers coming out of their head. Now, there have been several reports of this creature being seen in forests all throughout Minnesota. People believe that this creature evolved from a lost hunter. They claim that his hunger and the extreme cold weather drove him to cannibalism. Wendigos are then said to hunt down and eat humans. Wendigos look terrifying. Like, imagine being a hunter and seeing the antlers from behind a tree and hoping you're gonna catch a deer, and then next thing you know, it's this gigantic creature hunting you. Spooky. No thank you. And in our number 1 spot, we have the UFO attacks. So there are UFO sightings in every city basically. Anything in the sky that looks a bit odd is automatically claimed as a UFO, and people believe it too. Even if it was reported by old Mr. Jenkins who wasn't even wearing his glasses. So in August of 1979, a deputy by the name of Val Johnson suffered an attack from what he claims was a UFO. So this deputy was in the Marshall County when he saw a strange light on the road ahead of him. He drove towards the light when all of a sudden it completely filled his car and blinded him. Half an hour later, he woke up in a ditch. He had welder burns on his eyes, and the time on his wristwatch and dashboard clock was off. His car had a smashed headlight and his antenna was bent. Police have no explanation as to what happened, and since then, this has become a well-known urban legend. Let me know what you think of this one in the comments below. Do you believe in aliens? Wendigo. A Wendigo originates from a folklore of Plains and Great Lakes natives as well as some First Nations. It's based in and around the East Coast forests of Canada, the Great Plains region of the United States, and the Great Lakes region of both the United States and Canada. Now, sometimes Wendigos are described as exceptionally thin, with the skull and skeleton pushing through its ash-colored mummy-like skin. Other stories describe the Wendigo as a well-fleshed giant who gets proportionately larger the more it eats. According to other legends, the Wendigo has a pointed or animal-like ears with antlers or horns sprouting on its head. A Wendigo's eyes have been described as sunken or glowing like hot coals. Sharp and pointy teeth, extremely bad breath, and bodily odor are often traits of a Wendigo. It is usually, but not always, endowed with powers such as superhuman strength and stamina that allows it to stalk, overpower, and devour its victims. Wendigos are usually credited with exceptional eyesight, hearing, and sense of smell. They're said to move with the speed of the wind and have the ability to walk across deep snow or even over open water without sinking. Now, it's said to invoke feelings of insatiable greed and hunger, and the desire to eat other humans, and propensity to end people's lives in those who fall under its influence. Number 9. El Chupacabra. The El Chupacabra is a legendary creature in the folklore of parts of the Americas. In 1975, a series of livestock killings in the small town of Mocha, Puerto Rico were attributed to the vampire of Mocha. Now, each of these animals were reported to have its body bled dry through a series of small circular incisions. A few months later, in August, an eyewitness reported seeing the creature in Puerto Rico, where as many as 150 farm animals and pets were reportedly killed. Now, physical descriptions of the creature vary. In Puerto Rico and in Latin America, it is generally described as a heavy creature, reptilian and alien-like, roughly the size of a small bear, and with a row of spines reaching from the neck to the base of the tail, while in southwestern United States, it is depicted as more dog-like. Shortly after the first reported incident in Puerto Rico, other animal deaths were reported in other countries, such as Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Peru, and the United States. Coming at number 8, we have Bigfoot. Bigfoot, also commonly referred to as Sasquatch, is an ape-like creature said to inhabit the forest of North America. North American settlers started reporting sightings during the late 1800s and into the 1900s, with the occasional finding of footprints, sporadic encounters, and even grainy photos and videos adding to the mystery. Bigfoot is often described as a large, muscular, bipedal ape or human-like creature covered in black, dark brown, or dark reddish hair. Descriptions estimate the height of roughly 6 to 9 feet, with some depictions having the creature standing as tall as 10 to 15 feet. Some alleged observations describe Bigfoot as more human than ape, particularly in regards to the face. Common descriptions include broad shoulders, no visible neck, and long arms. Now, some alleged nighttime sightings have stated the creature's eyes glowed yellow or red. In 1971, multiple people in the Dailies, Oregon filed a police report describing an overgrown ape, and one of the men claimed to have sighted the creature in the scope of his rifle, but could not bring himself to shoot it because it looked more human than animal. Now, there have been hundreds, if not thousands, of Bigfoot sightings, and Bigfoot has come somewhat of a pop culture figure, as there are TV shows, movies, and fan clubs dedicated to him. Number 7. Lizard Man. In the folklore of Lee County, South Carolina, the Lizard Man of Scape or Swamp is an entity said to inhabit the swampland of the region. First mentioned in the late 1980s, the sightings and damage attributed to the creature yielded a significant amount of newspaper, radio, and television publicity. On July 14, 1988, the Lee County Sheriff's Office investigated a report of a car damaged overnight while parked at a home on the edge of Scape or Swamp. The car reportedly had tooth marks and scratches with hair and muddy footprints left behind. Sheriff Liston Truesdale noted that this was the start of various claims that eventually turned into a story about a lizard man in the swamp. Prompted by the news of the vehicle damage, local Christopher Davis reported to the sheriff that his car was damaged by a creature he described as green, wet-like, about 7 feet tall, and had 3 fingers, red eyes, skin like a lizard, and snake-like scales 2 weeks earlier. According to Christopher, he was driving home from working a night shift at a fast food restaurant when his car got a flat tire. After fixing it, minute, he saw a creature walking towards him. He got in his car and began to drive, but the creature was soon on top of the car. He applied the brakes, causing the creature to roll off the car, giving him enough time to escape. Number 6. Loveland Frog. In Ohio folklore, the Loveland Frog is a legendary humanoid frog described as standing roughly 4 feet tall, allegedly spotted in Loveland, Ohio. In 1972, the Loveland Frog legend gained renowned attention when a Loveland police officer reported to a colleague that he had seen an animal consistent with the description of the frogman. After a reported sighting in 2016, the second officer called a news station to report that he had shot and killed the same creature some weeks after the 1972 incident and had identified it as a large iguana that was missing its tail. Now, according to various legends, the creature was first sighted by a businessman or traveling salesman driving along an unnamed road late at night in 1955, with some versions of the story specifying the month of May. In one story, the driver was heading out of a Branch Hill neighborhood when he spotted 3 figures standing erect on their hind legs along the side of the road, each 3 to 4 feet in height, with leathery skin and frog faces. In other versions of the story, the creatures were spotted under or over a poorly lit bridge, and one held a wand over its head that fired a spray of sparks. Number 5. Bat Squatch. The Bat Squatch is a flying cryptid that was allegedly seen near Mount St. Helens in the 1980s. This creature is said to have yellow eyes, a dog-like muzzle, blue fur, sharp teeth, bird-like feet, and a leathery bat-like wings that span up to 50 feet. In addition, Bat Squatch is said to be 9 feet tall and has the ability to affect car engines. In April 1994, Brian Canfield was driving in Washington's Pierce County when his truck suddenly died. He said a large creature landed in front of him that was human-like, 9 feet tall, with bat-like wings and a coat of blue fur. A possible second sighting was reported in 2009 near Mount Shasta in California. Several hikers witnessed a huge creature with leathery wings spanning 50 feet fly out of a crevice in the mountain. At first, an eyewitness described the creature as having a head similar to a pterodactyl. However, upon reconsideration, the witness claimed that it was more akin to a flying fox bat. Then, in June 2011, a man was in his yard walking his dog and said, "I saw something flying in the sky. It had bat wings, blue fur, and had a face similar to eyes growing red. It was about 9 feet tall at the least, and I watched it just fly away." Number 4. Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil is a legendary creature said to inhabit the forests of the Pine Barrens in South Jersey. This creature is often described as a flying biped with hooves, but there are many variations. The common description is that of a bipedal kangaroo or wyvern-like creature with a horse or goat-like head, leathery bat-like wings, horns, small arms with clawed hands, legs with cloven hooves, and a forked or pointed tail. It has been reported to move quickly and is often described as emitting a high-pitched, blood-curdling scream. According to popular folklore, the Jersey Devil originated with a Pine Barrens resident named Jade Leeds, also known as Mother Leeds. The legend states that Mother Leeds had 12 children, and after discovering she was pregnant for the 13th time, she cursed the child in frustration, declaring that the child would be the devil. Born as a normal child, the 13th child transformed into the creature with hooves, a goat's head, bat wings, and a forked tail. Growling and screaming, the child beat everyone with its tail before flying up the chimney and heading into the pines. It was in some versions of the tale that Mother Leeds was supposedly a witch, and the child's father was the devil himself. Then one of the first reported Jersey Devil sightings was in 1812, when Joseph Bonaparte, Napoleon's older brother, claimed he saw the Jersey Devil while hunting near his Bordentown estate. Number 3. Mothman. In West Virginia folklore, the Mothman is a humanoid creature reportedly seen in the Point Pleasant area from November 5th, 1966 to December 15th, 1967. The first newspaper report was published on the Point Pleasant Register, dated November 16th, 1966, titled "Couple See Man-Sized Bird, Creature, Something." The national press soon picked up on the reports and helped spread the news story across the United States. On November 15th, 1996, 2 young couples from Point Pleasant, Dickie and Linda Maxwell, and Steve and Mary Mallet, told police that they had seen a large white creature whose eyes glowed red, standing at the side of the road near the TNT area, the site of the former World War II munitions plant. Linda Scarberry described it as a slender, muscular man, about 7 feet tall with white wings, and said that she was unable to discern its face due to the hypnotic effects of its eyes. Distressed, the witnesses drove away at a high speed and said that the creature flew after their car, making a screeching sound. It pursued them as far as Point Pleasant city limits, and during the next few days, other people reported similar sightings after local newspapers reported it. 2 volunteer firemen who saw it said it was a large bird with red eyes.
Number 2. Skunk ape. The skunk ape is a cryptid ape-like creature that inhabits forests and swamps in the southeastern United States. Perhaps most prominent in the state of Florida, the alleged creature is also commonly referred to as the Florida Bigfoot and is often compared to or called the cousin of Bigfoot, a prominent subject within North America popular culture. Now, the skunk ape is commonly described as a bipedal ape-like creature, approximately 5 to 7 feet tall and covered in malted reddish-brown hair. It is named for its foul odor, often described as being similar to a skunk. The skunk ape has been recorded as appearing in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama folklore since European settlers first occupied the region. In 1818, local newspapers reported a story that spoke of a man-sized monkey raiding food stores and stalking fishermen along the shore. And coming at number 1 is skinwalkers. In Navajo culture, a skinwalker is a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise themselves as an animal. According to some traditions, skinwalkers were once healers and medicine men who were corrupted by their own power and turned evil. By draping the hide of certain animals over themselves, the witch takes on the form and traits of the animal. Now, in doing so, the witch gains the animal's strength, speed, and endurance. They sometimes transform themselves into animals simply for the purpose of traversing great distances quickly. They may also transform in order to wreak havoc on others, as well as their identity will be hidden and they'll be able to escape quickly if necessary. Now, they curse people and cause great suffering and death, one Navajo writer explained. At night, their eyes grow red like hot coals. It is said that if you see the face of a skinwalker, they have to kill you. If you see one and know who it is, you will die. If you see them and you don't know them, they have to kill you to keep you from finding out who they are. Skinwalkers are also telepathically linked with each other, enhancing their coordination during hunts and fights, but allowing little or no privacy at any time. Now, they can also copy animal or human voices to lure victims to feed on. They generally copy the sound of a human that is in need of help, so make sure you don't get tricked.
If you enjoyed this video about the Wendigo, then you have to check out this video next. It's about cybersecurity threats that are predicted to end the world. Click the video now to find out more, because you don't want to miss this video. Bye.